Hey everyone! Welcome back to FPS Xpert. Today, we're diving into something that's kind of a bummer. Games that had incredible trailers, but left us all disappointed with the final product. You know, those moments when you see a trailer that gets your hype levels through the roof, but then you play the game and, well, let's just say it's not quite what you signed up for. From downgraded graphics to unfinished features, and even broken promises, we're going to break down some of the biggest offenders. But before we get started, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and smash the like if you enjoy this type of content. Let's get into it. Number 1 on our list is Halo Infinite. Now, Halo has been one of the most iconic franchises in gaming, right? Fans have been waiting for a worthy sequel to Halo 5, and the anticipation for Halo Infinite was off the charts. The trailers promised a return to form with that classic Halo feel, open-world gameplay, stunning visuals, and a captivating story that would reignite the spark fans have been craving. But when the game finally dropped, let's just say, it wasn't what we expected. First off, the graphics. Remember that breathtaking trailer with the lush landscapes and detailed environments? Yeah, it looked gorgeous at first, but in the final game, a lot of those elements felt underwhelming. The textures weren't as crisp, and some of the lighting effects just didn't match the hype we saw in the trailer. It almost felt like we were playing an entirely different game. Then there's the story. Halo has always been about epic battles and unforgettable moments, but Halo Infinite's plot felt, well, lackluster. Master Chief's character was supposed to evolve, but instead, it seemed like a lot of his depth was lost in translation. Plus, the game introduced a villain that didn't really live up to the hype, the Banished, while a decent faction just didn't hit the same level of threat that Covenant once had. And don't even get me started on the multiplayer. While it launched for free-to-play, which was a huge bonus, the content felt sparse. Missing features, unbalanced progression systems, and a lack of variety in maps made it feel like the developers were still finishing up the game after release. It's disappointing when the potential is so high, but the final product just doesn't live up to the expectations set by those trailers. Halo Infinite could have been a masterpiece, but the reality was far from what we were promised. Let's just hope they can patch things up and deliver on the potential they had. Number 2 on our list is The Last of Us Part 2. Now this one, The Last of Us was a masterpiece, right? The original game set such a high bar with its gripping story, emotional moments, and intense gameplay. So when The Last of Us Part 2 was announced, fans were beyond excited. We thought we were going to get another incredible journey with Joel and Ellie, and the trailers made it look like everything was set to top the first game. But what we got, well, it was a different story. Let's start with the most controversial part, Joel's death. The trailers had led us to believe that Joel would be a central part of the game. We were expecting him to be with Ellie, fighting side by side, continuing their journey. But within the first 20 minutes of the game, they kill off Joel. And not just in any way, it's brutal, and it doesn't really feel like the character we grew to love in the first game would go out like that. This wasn't the story fans were hoping for, and it left many feeling cheated. Now, it's not just about Joel's death. The entire story structure fell off. The narrative jumps between Ellie and Abby, which is fine in theory, but it felt like we were forced to play as Abby at times when we didn't want to. The pacing was all over the place, and the emotional highs and lows didn't quite hit as hard as they did in the first game. What should have been a heartbreaking, emotional journey ended up feeling like a grind at points, and not in a good way. And let's talk about the design. The game looked beautiful, don't get me wrong, but at times, it felt like the world was more of a set piece rather than a living, breathing place. The level design was linear, and there wasn't much new in terms of exploration or real choice. It was like you were being guided through a movie, which for some, took away the immersive experience that made the first game so special. To top it off, The Last of Us Part 2 was riddled with issues regarding fan expectations versus the reality of what the game delivered. While it still had great gameplay mechanics, the story and overall feel just didn't sit right with a lot of fans. For a game that was marketed as one of the most anticipated sequels, it left a lot of people feeling disappointed, confused, and even betrayed by how it all turned out. It's clear the game took risks, and some people appreciated that, while others felt that those risks completely missed the mark. What could have been a legendary sequel ended up being a divisive experience that didn't quite live up to the promises made by the trailers. Number 3 on our list is Battlefield 2042. Now, Battlefield has always been known for its huge, epic battles, incredible destruction, and immersive environments. The franchise has a huge fanbase, so when Battlefield 2042 was announced, there was a ton of excitement. The trailers made it look like it was going to be one of the most groundbreaking entries in the series, with massive battles, new mechanics, and a futuristic setting that would take things to a whole new level. But when the game actually launched, well, it was a completely different story. Right off the bat, Battlefield 2042 had massive issues. The game was plagued with bugs, crashes, and performance issues that made it hard to enjoy. And this was across all platforms, from PC to consoles. The trailers promised cutting-edge graphics, but when you actually played the game, it didn't look anywhere near as polished as what was shown. And then there's the gameplay. While Battlefield games are known for their large-scale battles, 2042 felt like something was missing. The maps were huge, but they felt empty, and there was a noticeable lack of depth in terms of interactions with the environment. The specialists introduced in the game, who were supposed to bring unique abilities, just didn't feel like they added much to the experience. It felt like they were thrown in to change things up, but without a solid reason for doing so. The progression system was also a letdown. Instead of the usual unlocks and gadgets that Battlefield fans loved, 2042 opted for a more streamlined, almost generic approach, making the game feel like just another run-of-the-mill shooter. And don't even get me started on the lack of a proper single-player campaign, something that was always a part of the Battlefield experience. To make matters worse, Battlefield 2042 was marketed as a next-gen game, but it ended up falling flat, with no meaningful improvements in areas like AI, dynamic environments, or even destructible elements, which are staples of the series. The game felt more like a cash grab than the next big leap for the franchise, and as a result, the fanbase was furious. So, while Battlefield 2042 had the potential to be incredible, it just didn't deliver. There's actually another Battlefield game announced, and let's all just hope that this one can finally live up to what was promised. But honestly, I'm not sure I want to pre-order this time around. Next up, we have Watch Dogs: Legion. The hype surrounding this game was real. The promise of being able to recruit anyone you see on the streets of London and play as any character was revolutionary. The trailer showed a bustling, vibrant world full of possibilities. But once the game was released, it was a different story. While the idea of playing as multiple characters seemed intriguing, the execution fell flat. The game lacked the depth and personal connection that previous Watch Dogs games had. Instead of feeling like you were in control of a truly dynamic world, the missions felt repetitive, and the promised freedom to play as anyone didn't translate into meaningful gameplay. It also didn't help that the graphics were underwhelming compared to the stunning visuals showcased in the trailers. The game ended up feeling more like a missed opportunity than the groundbreaking experience fans were hoping for. So, while Watch Dogs: Legion had a fantastic concept, it just didn't deliver in the end. Next, Anthem. When Anthem was first revealed, it was a massive deal. EA and BioWare promised an incredible, futuristic open-world experience with epic, fluid combat, and a story-driven narrative. The trailers showcased jaw-dropping visuals, thrilling action sequences, and a world teeming with life. It seemed like Anthem was going to be the next big thing, combining BioWare's narrative expertise with EA's vast resources. But when it launched, it was a completely different story. The game's mechanics felt repetitive, and the once promised rich, narrative-driven experience fell flat. The world was beautiful, yes, but the content was sparse, with players quickly realizing that there wasn't much depth to explore or engage with. On top of that, countless bugs, a lack of endgame content, and severe balance issues made the experience frustrating instead of fun. The most disappointing part was the broken promises. The incredible world shown in the trailers seemed empty and lacked the depth and interactivity that had been hinted at. The game quickly became infamous for its misleading trailers and promises that were never delivered, leaving fans feeling betrayed. Now, Anthem has been officially abandoned, and while it could have been a game-changer, it fell apart under the weight of its own hype. Number 9 on our list is Star Wars Outlaws. This game had a lot of potential, but unfortunately failed to deliver. From the trailers, it promised a massive open-world Star Wars experience, but when it launched, the game was filled with bugs, and the world felt empty and underwhelming. The story, which could have been a highlight, was a letdown for many players. The game just didn't live up to the expectations set by the trailers. Many fans were excited to explore the galaxy, but instead, they were left with a glitchy, frustrating experience. It's another example of how a great trailer can sometimes mislead players into thinking they're getting something amazing, only to end up disappointed. With all the hype surrounding the Star Wars universe, it's clear that players were expecting more, and Star Wars Outlaws just didn't deliver. Now, let's talk about Fallout 76, a game that started with so much hype but ended up as one of the biggest disappointments in gaming history. The trailer promised a massive open world with multiplayer, new quests, and more, but when players actually got their hands on it, they were greeted with game-breaking bugs, crashes, and a lack of content. The promised multiplayer experience was riddled with issues, and fans felt like the game was unfinished and rushed out. On top of that, the open world was barren, and there wasn't much to do, especially compared to previous Fallout titles. Bethesda had to do a lot of work to fix the game post-launch, but it was clear that the hype surrounding Fallout 76 was all smoke and mirrors. It's a tough lesson in managing expectations. When a game gets overhyped and promises so much but delivers so little, it leaves players feeling cheated. And that wraps up our list of games that had incredible trailers but failed to deliver on their promises. It's always disappointing when a game that seems perfect in the promotional material turns out to be a complete letdown. These games are prime examples of how expectations can be shattered, leaving players frustrated. What do you think? Are there any other games you feel were ruined by misleading trailers? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.